Beginning of my video. Boom!
Welcome back to Boring Reviews.
Boring land.
Oh, just kidding.
Blasphemer!
Hello,
right.
Boring Review Nation!
Kind of pointless.
We know all things. It was over in a snap.
We really want it. Alright, we'll be nice.
Only you can be a Patreon.
Oh my gosh!
Look out.
You don't need to follow the show to be hyped.
All right, welcome back to Boring Reviews. Nick here.
Jodi.
And we are excited, I am in character, to review the movie
Kumbalangi Nights.
Kumbalangi Nights. I've been saying that over and over. It's just fun to say it that way. And I am dressed up the best I can as my favorite character in the movie, Bobby. But wait, he says not the top one. All right, that's better. Okay, now I am ready like Saji when he was going to talk to Shami, but we'll get to that later. So, we are excited to talk about this movie. At least I am. Who knows about this
I
one?
am.
Okay. And there's so much to talk about this movie, so
Yes.
we're just going to jump in. I can't promise it's going to be coherent in any kind of organization, but that's okay. So, it's hard to figure out where to start because
Let's
you
start
have
with the scenery.
different storylines. Okay, go for it.
Because then we can kind of, it'll flow us into all the storylines, right?
Go for it.
Okay. When we go to India to visit, I want to go there.
Kumbalangi.
It looks beautiful. Didn't you think so?
Of course, yes.
Looks lovely.
100%.
So pretty, and all the flowers and the water. The only thing I'd be terrified is there's probably, like you said, mosquitoes and stuff around. Ugh, I don't do
Well, I never
those.
really said that. You were already worried about the bugs we were watching. I know it's like the mosquito nets to protect themselves. So, yes, there's definitely probably a lot of mosquitoes. The scenery was a main character in this movie. It 100% was. The movie's called Kumbalangi Nights. What takes place is not only takes place in the nighttime, but the scenery, the location is very much a character in this movie. And that brings me into my favorite part of this movie. And I'm going to jump right into it.
Do it.
And that is the cinematography. The cinematography in this film, the way the cinematographer who's behind the camera chooses his or her shots, is fantastic. And there's so many artistic points of view that are shown through the camera on the moods of the characters, with the way the music is mixed in there. But that cinematography is by far, the colors, the lighting was fantastic. So I had to look it up. The cinematographer is Shahir Khalid. Shahir Khalid did a fantastic job, don't you think?
Yes. During one part of the movie, when Bonnie and that girl kind of get together, I said, they really didn't do a lot of character development with the two of them and their love story.
Love at first sight.
They give what?
Love at first sight.
Love at first sight. Yeah, they give a little bit, but there's not a lot. But it's almost like it's okay because of the shots that they take. They're so beautifully put together, and they have their moments together where you're just like, all right, I'll let it go, and I'll just enjoy it for what it is.
Yes, this is a movie that it doesn't give us a lot of exposition in a lot of areas. It doesn't give us a whole lot on the Shami character, and we'll get to him in a little bit. But we just know that he's married that sister. Yeah. It doesn't give us a lot. Like we were talking, okay, what about the little brother? We never see him in the house, and I'm pretty sure that's the little brother.
Right? For Shami and Baby and Simi. Yeah,
Simi,
their little brother.
Her little brother.
Yep.
And we don't get a lot on maybe other family members, like the other sister that later on married Prasanth. It looked like they were part of the family. Maybe she was just an aunt or a cousin or something, but they were there to give her away. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we don't get. Talking about things we don't get, you have Shami and Simi's family and the mom all there to give away their whoever relative she is to Prasanth, and they have no problem with that wedding, even though Prasanth, he admits he has nothing, so he's got to start working and he loves her, he wants to marry her. But there's all this whole story revolves this backlash with Bobby. And so, they don't go into a lot of explanation with a lot of those things, but it's okay. This is one of the few, maybe the only 2-hour film, Indian film that I've seen that does 2 hours very well. Usually Indian films are 2.5 to 3 hours long, sometimes plus 3 hours plus. This is the only one I've seen that's 2 hours and 6 minutes, basically a 2-hour movie that uses all of those minutes perfectly. And besides getting exposition here or there, it did not seem too short to me. And so once again, the director of this film, I say once again, all the technical aspects besides just the acting and the storyline really come to play. The director is Madhu, Narayanan. I know I butchered that, sorry. but the directed is fantastic. I'm excited to see anything else that this guy does because he did a great job of telling the story. And it's not like a non-linear story. It's linear for the most part, but jumping around from different storyline of these different characters and mesh them all together, that is what makes this movie so great. Involved with the cinematography, the storylines, the writing, the acting.
Well, and one thing is like during the comments of our reaction, some people said it was a romance, some people said it wasn't, it was more complex, and it definitely is. There's a lot in 2 hours. I mean, when we first started watching it, the dynamic between the brothers, I was like, what are we getting into? Like, I really wasn't quite sure because it did not seem like the trailer we'd watched. I mean, you come into this poor boy who's coming to his family of brothers who
he's on break from school, from his
Yes.
scholarship, his academy that he was at or whatever.
And it's
And at
so
first
depressing.
he seems like the only brother that has it all together.
Exactly.
He's so young.
Well, I was going to say, because his older brothers seem, no offense, they seem lazy. They seem like they don't really care. They're just lying around, and he's the one cooking and fishing, and he's frustrated, and you understand his frustration. You're like, come on. And it was almost to the part that when Bobby and Baby kind of first got together, I was like, oh, girls, like, do not waste your time with him. But
loser alert,
Right.
no job.
Right.
And you sense the frustration of the younger brother, Frankie, played by Matthew Thomas. He was frustrated right when he got off the boat, when he got to, the grassy porch, whatever you want to call that. And he sees the mess, and he's just,
and he knew it.
I have to be the adult.
He knew it when he was laying in bed and the boys were all talking about like getting together, and he's like, oh, my family all has a chicken pox.
Yeah.
You can see like that depression in him, and you don't understand it at first.
Yeah.
Yes, while you're watching, you're like, what's going on? But then when he gets home, and you're like, oh, I get why you wouldn't want them to come home, to come see your home.
Yeah, I just want to mention some of these actors before I forget later on. We have Bobby, who's played by Shane Nigam. Fantastic. Like I said, my favorite character in the movie. Very, very complex. Soubin and Shahir, who plays Saji, did also a fantastic job. I want to mention about him just for a little bit because, again, this review is going to be all over the place. So, Saji, even though Bobby's my favorite character, Saji is very close. But the actor, Soubin, he reminded me of like a Nawaz type of performance. He really did. He's that smaller, more that pint-sized type character, but he's got a lot of issues inside, a lot of emotions inside. He's got some frustration, some angst, some anger. And he was able to show a nice wider range of pretending to be happy, being frustrated, being drunk, being angry, being depressed. And he did it all like in a very consistent manner to where I kept seeing flashes of Nawaz. And that's a huge compliment to this guy. And I love seeing that because I felt like, okay, here's another guy who might be getting to the level of Nawaz, and he did a great job in delivering that performance.
Yeah, and all these brothers had very complex characters, and as you watch the movie, you learn about their dad and their mother.
Slowly but surely, which is a good way to tell a story.
Yes, and how it affected them culturally and how people looked upon them. And it brings up this very big, important issue at the very end of doing what might be culturally acceptable to what you personally feel is right. And I liked how they blended all that in.
Yeah, I was mentioning the actors and I got distracted.
Facial recognition.
There's a few other actors I want to mention real quick. Bonnie, played by Srinath Basi. Fantastic job.
Yes.
Fahadh Faasil, who played Shami. Very, very good and chilling job.
Can we do that smile?
Anna Ben, who played Baby. Beautiful actress. Sorry, not as beautiful as you, but still beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And then even Grace Anthony, who played Simi. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. I like the character the guy that played Prasanth, too.
The girl who played Simi did a good job of that fearful, like worried, but trying to make everything okay with your spouse and not wanting him to go off the hinge. And like she did a good job of that, like not sure where to go. But the one thing that frustrated me so much with her character, and not her as an actress at all, she did a great job, just her character in general, is that she let it be obvious to him when things were wrong. Like when Baby wanted to marry Bobby, I mean, she made it obvious. Just lay down, freak out, like not facing him.
She can't do it. She's in so much fear of this guy
that she wants to tell him everything.
And that's why I wanted maybe my only complaint is I want a little more information on where did this guy come from, and maybe they mentioned and I missed it. Where did he come from? Why was he chosen to? Because it seems like this family, and it seems like maybe their father had recently passed away or whatever happened. This seemed like a family where the matriarch's the mom, where they're in a good place. They have their own little hut that they're renting out. They, they have a nice house. It's in Kumbalangi, or at least near Kumbalangi, where the people are at. Maybe it's in a different town, but it's very nice. To me, I got the impression that they're not hurting for money. I know that they rely on Shami's pay at the barber shop or whatever, but I mean, how much money could you really be bringing in? They seem like they have a lot of stuff in place that he wants to take over, and I'm jumping all over the place, but I wish there was a little more information, because with his character, you don't get a whole lot until the very end on why they're afraid of him. But it's even new to them, because they mention at the beginning the little boys are playing. They're afraid to play with the ball around him because he hates it. Drives him crazy. It's my sis's new boy, my new husband, my new brother-in-law. So where did this freak show come from, and why did he have to go? I wanted a little more information on that, but she was terrified. But we didn't get a lot of why she was terrified, because as far as they know, from what we get from the movie, he hasn't had any kind of outrages yet.
Yes, but you can feel it, just like the way he responds.
Creepy.
Oh, and his mustache. Oh my gosh, shave the thing off. It's so creepy. But I think it's just the way he handled things. Being in situations like that. I mean, I've had a situation like that in the past. Like, there's a look in that person's eyes where you just know, like, what is coming is not good. And I think he just had that look in his eyes. Like, you just knew, like, deep down, like, ugh. And I mean, that's how I felt the entire movie. Like, I was just waiting for him to snap. Just waiting for him to hit her.
Yeah, no,
waiting
yes.
I mean...
the tension was being built.
Yes, and I'm not sure if it's prominent in other countries. I would assume it's prominent worldwide with abusive spouses. But I don't know. But, like, the way they were talking to him, like, I was in fear. I was like, why are you talking? Like, he's going to hit you. Like, but I really... admired Baby not backing down to him. She did not. She stood up to her.
They were independent girls, for sure. Both of them. Even Simi, I mean, she did her own way of trying to stand her ground. She definitely stood her ground at the very end.
At the very end, yeah.
But I guess they decided we're not going to live in fear of this guy. And if this guy's going to be with us the whole time, I mean, yeah, sure, he's weird and he's crazy, but there's no way he's going to do anything too crazy. I don't know. That was a very interesting dynamic. That's why I wanted a little more information on there.
Yes.
Since we're talking about Shami, let's just go right into Shami. So this guy, played beautifully by the actor, he is such a complex character. He's very particular. He obviously has a lot of insecurities. The thing that I was confused about was his friend that they mentioned as bro, the one that dropped him off. He's very particular about this plate. Let him eat on this plate. He works with him at the barber shop. They call him up when he goes into the corner, and he just stands there. And this guy's like, don't worry about it. He'll be fine. Just go to sleep. I'll come by and stop by in the morning. I mean, what's this guy's deal? Does he just not care about them at all? He couldn't wait to get away from them. I can understand he probably can't wait to get away from him, but he works with the guy every day. I don't understand how that guy could not care at all for these women when he has to know more than anyone else, unless Shami has always kept that part of him hidden and always bottled it up, and maybe he was afraid of this, maybe his former roommate. I wanted more information on that, because this guy was a complete joke. He did not care about these women at all when they called him and they basically, what's going on? But Shami is his character, his brother-in-law character, marries into the family. He wants to move himself in the position of the father. He's the only man that's in the family. So I guess culture-wise, he basically takes that role because it's so important to have a man in the head of the household. He has a job. He has say over his new sister-in-law and whatnot, and the mom, he calls her mom. He puts himself into the head of the table, and the music was done so well, the direction so well, that he was positioning himself, he was getting more confidence.
So let me just move over here.
And it seemed like he just assumed that now, since I am the father, you guys all need to respect me this way. And it seemed like they did respect him to a certain point. Baby didn't really too much. But then you have this whole thing at the end, and maybe we should save that for the end. But anyways, this character is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
So weird, so creepy. I mean, you just want to go on the TV and just give him a punch in the face. I'm wondering, why don't the rest of these guys just, put him in his place? You find out at the end, okay, maybe that's why. But, it's so crazy.
And it was interesting that when we had done the reaction, I'm not sure if it was the reaction on the trailer or the song, but somebody had commented about, like, the villain in the story, and people were getting all mad saying, like, it wasn't horror. They said it was horror and it wasn't horror. But I can see that element in it, that suspenseful element, as you're just like, again, it's a complex movie. It wasn't just a romance. It wasn't just a coming of age story. It was a lot all in one because I felt that horror. Like, I was just so uncomfortable. I was like, this is not my thing. Like, I am not liking where this is going. And I mean, you expected it to happen, but I was like, let's just get this over with. And yeah, at the end, I mean, it was straight up like he was, when he opened the door and threw out Bobby's shoes into the water and the brothers just knew and jumped up and busted in the room and he was pulling the body, I was like, oh yeah, we got 4 dead people right now. Like, I straight up thought.
She said that when they were rowing their boat. She's like, "Oh, they're dead." And if that was gonna happen, I was gonna hate the movie.
Yeah.
Thankfully, that's not what happened.
Oh, thankfully, but how he like pushed them all under the bed, and it's just in his corner. Can we just talk about him going into the corner?
What a baby!
That was weird.
I mean, he holds his ground. He tells Baby because so we have this whole character, this whole love situation where you have Bobby and Baby. And I love their whole story. And it's probably why Bobby's my favorite character in this movie. Because each of these characters, Saji, Bobby, maybe not so Frankie, Bonnie, Baby, all these characters, they're all complex. And you can tell there's more to them. So Bobby and Frankie, the youngest one, they are full brothers. Bonnie's their half brother, and Saji's their half brother. And Bonnie and Saji are not related. Saji's the oldest one because most of them all share the same dad. The dad married Bonnie's mom and then had the 2 other ones afterwards. So you have this whole family dynamic. And you mentioned about the brothers fight at the beginning. I completely related to that. I have 2 brothers, one older, one younger, and that's how it is. We are not very violent as brothers, but we've had our situations growing up. That is how it is. You constantly juxtaposition. You constantly are trying to put yourself ahead of the next one. When Saji is making the younger one that wants him to do something for him, makes him call him the elder brother, and that was Bobby. So satisfied for him. I understand that completely. It's all about ego. It's all about pride, and that brother-sibling rivalry is huge. And it was funny because at the beginning you're watching Saji and Bobby, who Saji is the older one, fighting and wrestling on the floor, and they're both bad at fighting. Yes. And you see them do that, and then you see Bonnie come in and move them out of the way, or Frankie or whatever. It makes sense for at the end when they weren't able to fight too well. Yes. It totally was very consistent.
Oh my gosh, that was so frustrating. I was like, seriously? I was like, we have 2 guys against one, and you can't do anything. But yeah, you had mentioned when we were watching it, but they couldn't fight in the beginning. I was like, okay. And thank goodness, as they called the little brat, thank goodness Frankie followed them and brought the fishnet, and they were able to trap him that way. But yeah, like, I realized early on that I forgot his name. Shami, yeah. He's such a coward. Like, he wants to be big, bad, and tough, but when, I keep forgetting names. When the older brother asked again about the proposal at the wedding, Saji asked again about the proposal at the wedding, he couldn't even tell him no. Like, he wouldn't even look at him. He's looking everywhere else, and then he goes to the mother and says, would you like to tell him or me? Because he is a coward. He cannot just say, I'm so sorry, dude, it's not going to work out. Go on.
He is a coward? I don't know. It's almost like he has split personalities. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe he has split personalities because he's a coward at that point, and you think he is. And the whole time I'm thinking, like, when she stood up to him and he went to his corner, I thought he was going to break down. I thought this movie was going to go to a shift where he was going to cry and say, I'm so sorry. I don't know why I was acting that way, like a Michael Scott type of situation. And then his friend even says, don't worry, he'll be fine. So I'm thinking, okay, yeah, he's going to be fine. And then he just switches, and he turns into a homicidal maniac. And then... So that's what I'm thinking, maybe schizophrenia or split personalities or something like that. And maybe the friend never saw him, he never pushed him that way. Who knows?
Well, if you notice, he acts very differently towards men than women. I think because he knows he has more power over the women than the men. And he didn't act that way towards the men till he completely went over. I think he was still a coward when it came to men. He wasn't right there. But
he held his own against all these guys that came in.
At the end. But
he went nuts.
That's after he had his moment. Like, he had finally just snapped and there was no going back.
Right.
There was no going back.
It was my fault. I put all the rails first, but I want to go back a little bit to these little love relationships. So you have Bobby and Baby. They knew each other from school. Bobby's the older one. She gave him a love letter. She tried to, and then she fled away, and he remembered that.
That was like my romantic little thing. When he's like, no, I don't remember, I was like, a typical. Like, I can get that. But then as they were walking away,
and so awesome.
When the friend or sister, whoever she was, yelled out, hey,
yeah.
Does he have a girlfriend?
Does he have a girlfriend?
If I was Baby, I would have been mortified. I'd been
and then it was,
what are you doing?
And then it was clever because then Prasanth yelled back, like, well, there was a girl, I gave him a letter and then fled.
And that's what I'm saying. That's where my
heart,
my heart was taken when he said
scene.
that. When Bobby did remember her and knew about it, and I was just like, okay, now I'm in. Now
I did not
I'm giving
want
it.
a long 2 hours of just the two of them getting together and him admitting his feelings for us. And then so when Prasant tells him, don't be too cool, don't do this attitude, it's not going to work for you. And he listened to his friend and he turned around and he smiled and he walked away and he started dating her. That was awesome. Before that, you have this Bobby who seemed like this jerk older brother, lazy guy, doesn't want to go fishing, doesn't want to do anything. He's sitting around. Someone's cooking for him, doesn't really say thank you. He's fighting with his brother. I was really annoyed with him. But then when you realize that he's just got issues, he's got attachment issues. Like a lot of people, a lot of characters in movies where obviously his father dying was bad enough. But then you find out later on that his mother, who knows where she's at. Some asylum, some cult, some religious place, some facility where she'd rather stay there than be with her sons because obviously she probably just can't handle it.
That was
the stress.
So heartbreaking.
And he has these people that run away from him. It makes sense the way he is with Baby when it gets there's 2 times when it gets really serious and she holds her ground and she stands up to him. And those were some awesome scenes. He jumps out of the boat. And he starts walking.
Yes.
You think he's going to hit her. You think he's going to he's going to yell at her or
I thought he was
tell her off or something. And then what does he do?
And I love too when they get in that little fight at that island, and he tells her like, let's just break up. It's not going to work out. And I totally had like a Romeo Juliet moment where like like the parents, it's like the parents don't want, our families don't want us together kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I love, first of all, I just love how she tells him, pick up your water bottle.
Yeah.
Like, don't leave your plastic here. Like, I like that. But I loved when they were on the beach and they were talking, and he just ran up behind her and gave her a hug. It just...
Talk about breaking up.
Yes, like he didn't want to. You knew he didn't want to, but when the going gets tough, sometimes...
And sometimes that's the best thing to do instead of trying to find the right words. Even in the movie theater, I was so proud of her because he was trying to bust a move.
Oh my gosh.
He was trying to be a typical guy. And she's like, no, not until you marry me. And she held firm to it. And then when he left, he said, get lost, movie theater. And she's like, get lost too. She held her ground. She was an awesome character. I liked their story a lot. I also like the small Prasant character story and the girl he was with and how they were at the bar and Bobby was being a butthead and was kind of making fun of him. You're going to marry this girl, really? You're going to take her to your house? You have no... And he's like, I don't care. And basically Bobby is saying without saying she's not that pretty. Why do you want to marry her? He's like,
is that what he's saying?
That's how I felt. Like, you're going to marry her? Why? Like, what?
Oh.
What's going on with her? Because she's not the most attractive, right? She's a little older, but Prasant is like, I don't care. I love her. She loves me. She's the only person, not even you. She's the only person that accepts me for who I am. And that made me like that Prasant character even more because there was just all these cool little moments where we didn't have to have a whole fleshed out story. And then there's 2 crazy parts in this movie. Well, first, you also have the Bonnie character falling in love with the tourist, the girl.
No, I don't remember her name. But yes.
She's on some kind of
tour thing and
discovery trip or something.
Yes, she's staying there for a little bit and then she's going to go to another place and she's just kind of enjoying her time. And, I really... And then you have the friend of Sarji?
Yeah, that's one of the 2 crazy parts that happens in this movie.
And his wife...
VJ
is
his friend's name. They work together. You can see that Saji takes advantage of VJ. Mm-hmm. And there's been a lot of drama with the brothers because they're trying to deal with the fallout of not having any parents and being those losers living in that crappy place, blah, blah, blah. And what happens with their whole... I'm all over the place. But if you see the movie, you know why. What happens with their story and how they come together as brothers at the end is so awesome.
Yes.
In real life, it doesn't really make sense, but you've got to be there for your brothers when they're going to get tough and when you have to pull together. That was so awesome to see. But there's a part near the middle of the movie. So the first half of this movie is very nice and easygoing, and there's some arguments, but it's just like a nice movie. I was telling my wife, I'm not really sure why, but I just really like this movie. It's got a great feel to it, even though there's a lot going on. Then the second half comes in.
And it's like just, a whole different it's a whole new movie.
Saji is drunk. He's mad. He doesn't like where his life's at. He doesn't like what his brothers said to him. And so he's talking to VJ. He's like, they think that I'm just like leeching off you and I'm bringing you down. And VJ, brave enough for him, he's like, you kind of are.
Yep.
You actually are. Me and my wife, we're about to have a baby. We're actually going to move somewhere else and you're not coming with me. Basically, he's not going to have a job and he's not going to carry him anymore. And Saji just... That was the one person he didn't want to hear it from because he even says, you're like the only person I care about. You're my best friend. And I don't think VJ did it in a hateful way, but he felt like this is my opportunity to tell you the truth of what's going on. Maybe this is going to help you in the long run. And so Saji goes into their place of work, locks it up, and he's ready to hang himself.
Oh,
and I was like, holy cow, this guy's crazy. And then VJ, he's trying to bust down the door. He jumps down. He goes in the roof. He's trying to help him. And what does he do?
It breaks my heart because as soon as it happened, I look at Nick and I was like, he just died. Like,
But what does he do
just
before? He just go right.
I just go right
for the
to.
meat.
He falls through the roof.
Yeah, and he breaks the beam so that he can't, get suffocated by what he's doing. But
and he dies instead.
Yeah, and his wife is like 9 months pregnant. I mean, any day now.
She actually ends up having the baby like another day or two later. But her words to him were awesome. How
unbelievable, most forgiving person.
Oh my
of all time.
gosh! Like she didn't get mad, didn't blame, didn't scream, didn't yell. She just told him, she's like, her husband said that you were his older brother. Like he looked up
and that's
to him
all
that
he
much.
wanted to hear from his other brothers. There's just so many awesome moments.
You're just slowly starting to unbutton, huh?
Oh, there's no S today. Dang it.
But that brings me to closer to the ending. We got very well from the comments and stuff, especially from Shami, that culturally, apparently, like having different women in your home who you're not married with or, is not appropriate. And in America, like, it just happens all the time. You can get a sense in this area that they're in, culturally, it's very, very much like down upon. And Shami uses that against them, like, kind of a thing if you got different people there.
Yeah, because Bobby wants to marry Baby.
Yeah.
And he's got to get permission from whatever so that the families can come together.
And he even tries to get his brothers to move out and whatnot. But I love how Sarji brings in the wife and the baby. And I was so hoping he would do that. Not in a romantic way, but in a let me take care of you kind of a way.
This is our sister now.
Yes, and I loved that. And I loved how everybody accepted her. And she talks about, since she eloped with her husband, her mom put a curse on her. And Bobby even looks at her and he's like, no. He's like, he basically says, look at the dump we live in. My own brother said we live in the worst house on the street. I mean, he's like, there's nothing to ruin. You're our sister. You're here. And
that was a great moment.
I loved that they didn't, there was different issues, but eventually they came to not caring what other people thought and did what was best for them.
And that's why I like the character Bobby so much, because he goes on the biggest journey of any of these characters. He starts off so worried about what people think, to the point where he decides, let's be a fisherman. She asked why they did it before. I believe he didn't want to be a fisherman before because he felt of how it made him look. Even though having no job whatsoever is way worse, for him, I'm not going to stoop down to being a fisherman. I'm just going to be this cool guy with my speaker. And he loves that speaker.
Yes, it went everywhere.
He went on the biggest journey because at the end of the movie, when he has that short conversation with what they call now the sister with the baby, he's like, I don't care. He's like, this is your house. You're going to stay here as long as you want. I don't care whatsoever. He didn't care. He was willing to be himself. And then he picks up that fish with his foot.
Oh my gosh, that was crazy.
Don't want to miss that. And him and Sajid, hey, let's go fish. They both need a job. And early on, Frankie was the only one doing it. And I feel like it was because Bobby thought it was below him. Even when he's casting the net that second time for like the tourist guide thing, he gave a look like she's like, please, just do it. Like it was beneath him to do that. He accepted his role as who he was, and that was so beautiful. The second crazy thing is the whole Shami thing. So Shami goes crazy. Baby wants to elope with Bobby. Simi tells Shami about it. Shami goes nuts, tells her she can't. She stands her ground. Even Simi breaks a badminton racket, stands her ground, and says, no, you're not going to be rude to her. He goes into his corner. He just stays there. They call the friend, hey, what do we do? Oh, don't worry about it. Not a big deal. Eventually, he comes out, and he's smiling. Hi, Simi, let's go to bed. And then you don't see what happens. He had tied up the sister, the mom, put him under the bed. Thank goodness he didn't kill him.
Seriously.
Then when the boys came, it was so cool.
Oh
the boys knew they had to do something. They all start, he hands the
jacket.
It was
awesome.
They all start coming out. And at this point, everything's fine. Saji's gone through his therapy session to figure out who he is. He's accepted the wife of the whatever. So all that's good. They even have the girlfriend of Bonnie move in a tent behind the house, but they're all there. And so they're going there as one unified unit. They won't let little brother come. Bobby goes in first. He gets pulled in. The brothers jump in. They go after this guy, and this guy's got weapons laid all over the house.
I know.
He has a plan for everything. I mean, it's like a apocalypse style.
He's like Dwight in The Office. He just pull out
I mean,
stuff.
He does though. He's got all these weapons, and these brothers. I mean, I get it. They weren't expecting that kind of onslaught, but they were not prepared at all to fight a guy like this. This guy was out of his mind. He was taking on 2 or 3 at a time. Bobby was knocked out. Luckily, Frankie comes and they do like the whole switcheroo thing, like, hey, let's get your attention here, and he throws a net on him and they tie him up and they take care of that threat. But the whole tension for that 15-20 minutes or 10 minutes was so high. It was awesome cinema, even though it was hard to watch at the same time. When you find out the girls are alive, I was so relieved.
Yes.
The music that was playing when Bobby was rescuing them, you see the black guys and all the girls, and I was just like getting so angry when I saw that. But, I mean, they saved them from a bad situation. And then you have, when all of that's taken care of, you have at the end where this small little crap of a house that didn't have a door is housing all of these people that have the wedding of Bobby and Baby. And it looks like they've allowed everyone just to move in there. I'm not sure what the situation is. Definitely the families have come together for sure. And it's just one big happy family. And you see in the cover of the movie, I'll put right here, where you have the main core of the sister, the baby, the tourist, all of them as one unit. And now that is their family. When it was broken before, is a beautiful thing. That was the best part of the movie, in my opinion, how these people came together. They went through their situations, they went through their issues, and they came back out as one unit on the other side. That was really cool. I really liked the coolness of the Bonnie character, who was mute. He had all these friends that took care of him, protected him, and he was like this cool, like local rock star almost. And he was just so cool and suave, where he was embarrassed to go visit them when he was with his friends. There's just so much of this movie in 2 hours that I loved about it. When in the first 45 minutes, I was still trying to figure out what kind of a movie is this.
Yeah.
So that's a really impressive feat for any filmmaker to get that kind of 45-minute, we're laying the groundwork, and then here you go and enjoy it, was just a beautiful thing to watch.
Well, I have to admit, like, when we were watching it, I was just like, everybody loves this movie, but I'm not getting it. Like, I think I even told that to you. I was like, I'm not quite sure. But you do. Like, as it progresses, you do love it, and it is amazing. And I loved when Bobby was just trying over and over to call Baby, and she wasn't picking up the phone, and the brothers just all got up. Like, they were just, we're doing it. And, like, I loved when when Shami threw out Bobby's shoes into the water, and they just knew, and they just jumped up and ran, and I just thought that was awesome. I just loved, like, the moments like that. Like I said, when Bobby ran to Baby and wrapped his arms around her, like, just those different things. When Sarji brought the wife, and her baby on his boat, like, just those little moments.
And there's all these small things that happen, like, while the craziness of Shami going after the two brothers, at one point Saji runs out of the house. Like, he leaves his brother there, and he just leaves.
What was it?
And
I guess it's fight or flight.
Bonnie is in the room, it's locked up, and he can see his two brothers on the window. And Saji went to the younger brother, but they're just out there, like, I mean, the dude just left. Like, this guy's crazy. But that Shami character was so weird. We can talk for days about that, but this review is getting really long. But
yes, we'll be done.
Hopefully, you can see our excitement for it,
yes,
and how intricate this film was. I definitely want to see more from this director and filmmaker and these creators of this movie, because it's fantastic. And the style of this movie, Malayalam, I never say that correctly. That style of film, even though we have a smaller audience on our YouTube channel, they're right. These are some of the best movies. Super Deluxe was another one from that industry. Some of the best movies. And they're smaller. The Mayande that we want to watch, that's not available anywhere, is part of that.
So bummed.
These are some super well-made films.
And then the one thing I want to ask, if you're still watching, when Bonnie and the tourist girl, when they walked out into the water, and it was like white, like is that real? Like,
at
what?
nighttime?
Yes. Yeah, please tell us. Like, is that real? What is it?
It seems like some digital thing to make it more glowy, but is it that glowy in real life? Because the Bob even says, "Hey, the water's beautiful. Go take her. Go show her to her."
Right. I'm wondering if, like, there's like some type of algae or something in the water that does
eels
that
were in there, or jellyfish.
Well, I don't think you'd be in there if that was the case. It was the water, because when they threw the water, when they splashed it, it went with it. So I don't know. Maybe it was like the sun.
Yeah, let us know
or
if that's
the
a real
moon
thing, or if that was just
reflecting.
an effect for the movie.
Yeah, because that was cool. But let's give it a grade, and let's call it done. What's your grade?
Call it done. In other words, let's shut up.
Thin.
So my grade is, I was going into it, I was like, okay, this is like a B plus, and I'm like, okay, this is an A minus, and then this is a solid A for me. I don't want to give it an A plus, because there were some cultural things I missed. There were some things that I feel like I wanted just a little more information on. But this is an amazing film. There's so little that happens at first, and then so much that happens, but it's not too much, and it's just woven together. And you have these character arcs, which is so great, and the music, the song, the main theme that we reacted to is peppered throughout. Definitely an A.
I love the song, and I love the score too. Just the instrumental music was really pretty. I give it an A too. At first I wasn't sure what I was getting into, and I'll admit I was kind of like, give it or leave it. But as he kept pushing me, like, no, just a little longer. I am grateful you did, because now I really do appreciate the beginning of the movie. I appreciate the brothers fighting, and I appreciate being introduced to all the complexity of their characters. I could do without Shami. Like, he was terrifying. But I loved all those just
But he
love
did a great
moments.
job. You have
he
to
did
have
such a good job.
This film doesn't have a huge antagonist, but he was a villain, and he was used perfectly. That's all we needed. Last thing I want to say is the Bobby character was driving me crazy. He reminded me so much of Cliff Curtis, which is a New Zealand actor, and a bunch of different things. He was in Fear the Walking Dead as the professor dad or whatever, the boyfriend. Anyways, reminded me a lot of him, a younger version of him. But with all that being said, thanks for watching our review. We know it was long, but this is a great film, a lot to talk about. And until next time.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out our Patreon page. Bye.